Part of the surprises of the NFL draft where you're sitting there like, oh, didn't see that you were mentioning. We've kind of seen those go up over the last handful of years is the fact that last week we had underclassmen for the NFL draft had to declare. And if you look at how many guys entered the NFL draft, 58 underclassmen entered.
That seems like nothing.
It is. I went down and I looked into this because it was kind of a jarring number. Like, dang, that does not seem like a lot. And it's not, especially when you go back to 2018, which is just 6 years ago. 106 underclassmen entered for the NFL draft.
Holy crap. So you're talking about a 42% reduction?
Yep. Then you had the COVID year, which you just kind of throw that one out.
Yeah.
But then you have NIL come into play. And in the NIL era, okay, after 2018, where there was 106 record, I think you had, I think it was 103 in 2019. 2021, you had 98. 2022, 73.
Oh, that was a big drop.
2023, 69. Nice. And then this year, only 54. You're seeing a slow drop in the underclassmen, which when you saw teams, these guys would be artificially hyped up because, hey, early entrant in the draft, hey, there's a reason why he's leaving early.
Super young, a lot of potential, blah, blah, blah.
A lot of the surprises were 4-year guys that stuck around. You're like, that's a little weird. He stuck around for a little bit longer. Like that usually you go for the younger guys, you hit them before they hit 30 in their second contract, all that stuff. This is one of the great things about NIL and the transfer portal is that we've seen in 2018, just 6 years ago, 106 guys entered the draft early. It's 54. They almost cut that number in half in this season. That is a monumental shift in the way that players are handling their careers in college. And it will be for the betterment of the product. And it is one part NIL inducing guys to stick around another year. See Washington last year. It was beneficial for the college football game too, because you had new blood all of a sudden in the college football playoff and in the national championship game. You also have the transfer portal because a lot of guys would enter the draft because they were stuck somewhere and they didn't want to be there anymore. Now you have the ability to go and transfer. And whether you're pulling I'm going to transfer to Ohio State because they're going to pay me out the wazoo to get me for 1 year and be a hired gun, so be it. You're actually helping yourself in the NFL draft, and you're helping the NFL as well with the evaluation with one more year in college football. These are the things like when you want to tear down college football's NIL and transfer portal, sure, it's not the same. And nobody's going to force you to like it or say that it's a great thing for the game. It has helped the NFL, and it's helped a lot of these players, too, from making mistakes that they would have made by going to the NFL early and having their careers flame out.
It's really interesting. I'm just kind of going through the mock draft for the first round right now, and there seems to be a very clear split between upperclassmen and lowerclassmen, where you've got the super, super young guys, where you've got like a Nate Wiggins, the corner from Clemson, or a Laiatu Latu. There's just two divisions of this. You're not really seeing the in between so much. You're getting a lot of like 20 and 21 year olds or 23 and 24 year olds.
Yeah.
And it's like either you've got it and you're like, I think it's what you're talking about. The whole idea of like, instead of forcing your way to the NFL because you're stuck in a place you don't want to go, you stay in school and you further develop.
Yeah.
But if you're that dude, you go.
Yep.
That's how I think this process should go, and it will be better for everyone. Those guys go to a place where it makes more sense for them. They get NIL, they get paid. The guys that probably aren't draft ready, they stick around maybe a year longer. Even if you're a fringe NFL guy, now you keep your name out of that mix. You don't go and just be a practice squad guy. Maybe you figure out it's not in the cards, and you make some money on the side. But I think it benefits the league because you don't get these absolute burnout day one and day two picks where that not only cripple the franchise, that cripples the player.
Yeah, it does. It hurts their career too moving forward.
Because they're not ready to make that transition. And to be honest, when a guy flames out in the NFL as a top day one or day two pick, how often do they recover?
It's not very often. A lot of them can have like solid careers, but not for, a first round pick where you expect them to be a starter.
Where that value slot, as we were talking about last time, it kind of comes into play.
Absolutely. It's an interesting turn in the world of college football. And look, if we're being quite honest, it helps a lot of the dumb evaluators who take reaches on guys. Like going and reaching on a Clellan Ferrell, right?
Yes.
Because you're like, he's young, he's raw, we can mold him. Instead, you're having these guys come back for another year, season a little bit more, get a little bag for you in college, get yourself a little nest egg. And then I will be very interested to see how NIL in like a decade
looks.
Well, and how it changes the professionals who go broke. 80% of NFL players that go broke 4 years after retiring, right? Where
if they're already starting,
you don't just become a multi-millionaire
overnight
once you get drafted in the NFL.
That's interesting because
the schools that are doing NIL the right way,
they have programs.
They are doing financial security and financial literacy to make sure you're not burning through all of your money and being an idiot. They're actually teaching them how to invest your money, save your money, and make a little into a lot. The whole idea of compound interest is hard to explain to people because we let them down in high school by not teaching them properly what compound interest can do for you. Because look, to be quite honest, there isn't curriculum for you become a millionaire overnight. No. How should you handle that?
No.
But in college, you have the ability
to do that,
to say, hey, I'm not just some guy who pops up out of nowhere in your DMs the day you get drafted and says, hey, man, I can help you with that money. I'm not a guy who's like, I got a crazy investment. No, these are people who work for the university and they say, all right, let's make this money work for you.
Invest in McDonald's.
Right, yeah, buy a Mickey D's.
I'm telling you, ask any NBA player when they go through the rookie symposium, the number one thing they tell them to invest in is fast food chains.
Yeah, go and buy them.
Go and buy them. Go and franchise them because they print money.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. I don't know if you guys talked about this while I was gone. You probably did. But when you started asking about the future of NIL, I started wondering, like what are we going to start seeing the full breakouts of all these universities and their spending and kind of how that looks in a decade? Like salary cap structure kind of a deal, because the whole report on Ohio State getting spending roughly $13 million on their roster. Like, are we going to start seeing like structured books coming out like we do salary caps in the NFL and NBA? Like you're allotted X percent of whatever revenue you generate kind of situation. Then how does that framing kind of change how we look at the draft? When you're talking about like value slotting, and if that ends up changing salary structures in the NFL,
right?
Because of like marketability, things around that. I start getting kind of in the weeds of that stuff, but yeah, that it interests me as far as because that relationship is going to be a lot more, I think, symbiotic than people are willing to concede at this point.
I think so too. We're heading down that path, and it's in a big way. All right. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting note, though.
No, it is.
You're almost half as many guys entering the draft early as just 6 years ago.
That's a significant number.